Hello and welcome back to another FPL transfer tips video. This is for game week 23 and we obviously never had one last week for game week 22 due to the short turnover. So the players and points that you are seeing on screen is from our game week 21 transfer tips. Now we managed to get 3 out of 5 and obviously the ones that failed ended up doing like okay for us in game week 22, which is the most recent game week gone past. So obviously we recommended buying in some Newcastle players, Gordon and Hall, to complete the Newcastle triple up with, of course, Alexander Isak. They both done really well, picking up a 9-pointer and a 6-pointer between them. Enzo Fernandez was a sell. He only got a 2-pointer, which was ideal. We didn't obviously want the player that we've sold picking up any points. And then we had keep Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, he is being mass bought in now after picking up an 11-pointer in game week 22, and he was someone who was being mass sold off in game week 21. And I did mention it in the video that a lot of people in 2 weeks time would be starting to bring Trent right back in again, so there was no point in selling him despite not really getting too many points at the time. He only picked up a 2-pointer, which wasn't great against Nottingham Forest, but again made up for it nicely with the 11-pointer in game week 22. So if we didn't just go off the instant game week, this would definitely be a successful transfer. And now obviously you have Ipswich and stuff coming up. Next we have Savinho. He was on a void. He picked up a big haul against West Ham in game week 20, I want to say, and a lot of people started bringing him in. He ended up picking up a 5-pointer against Brentford with an assist, but then again in game week 22 he got 0 points. So again, I would consider that another successful one, avoiding him, because Man City are coming into a very poor run of fixtures. So before we get into our new transfer tips for this week, make sure you leave a like on the video if you do enjoy it, and make sure you subscribe as well if you are new here, because we do these all the time, as well as captaincy videos, team selection videos, and lots more. The assistant manager video as well will be coming out at some point this week. I'm still working on it, but yeah, that will be out, and it'll have everything you need to know about the assistant manager chip and when the best time to use it is. So enough of that, let's jump straight into our transfer tips. Now we're starting it off this week with Cody GAKPO. Now he is, for me, definitely a good buy over the next few. Obviously that double game week is coming up for Liverpool in game week 24, and a lot of people have started to prepare for that. A nice couple of fixtures, especially this week. Obviously if you are looking for that triple Liverpool, this week is the time to do it before they play Ipswich at home, and then a really nice run after that with obviously the double and then Wolves at home in game week 25. Now GAKPO's been brought in 159,000 times, so he is a popular one. A lot of people are starting to bring him in at only 7.4 million, and he is due to rise in price tonight as well. Now when it comes to that third Liverpool spot, I imagine most people will have Salah and Trent, so that third one is the one that people are a little bit confused about. If you're wanting to go for an attacker, we've got the Liverpool stats from this season. Now you can see the next 6 fixtures for Liverpool over the next 7 fixtures over the next 6 weeks, and if you wanted to go for another attacker, if you wanted to double up with Salah, we've got the stats of GAKPO, DIAZ and Szoboszlai since game week 6, because obviously in the first couple of game weeks DIAZ had that run of doing really well and matching Salah for a good few weeks. So, you know, he's kind of dropped off since then. I wanted to just look at the Liverpool attackers over the last 16 or so game weeks, where obviously DIAZ never had that explosive form. So, when it comes to minutes, GAKPO is the one leading the minutes. He has almost 200 more minutes than DIAZ has since game week 6, similar to the minutes of Szoboszlai as well with DIAZ. So, they're very similar. If you're wanting someone who is going to be probably getting more minutes over the next few, and obviously over the double game week, it is going to be Cody GAKPO. Obviously when you're looking at the Liverpool squad as well, GAKPO got a full rest, I believe, in the Champions League game against, who were they playing yesterday? Lille they were playing yesterday. So expected goals as well, it's actually Szoboszlai who's been leading the way for expected goals since game week 6. A very under the radar kind of player, I think. Obviously he isn't explosive as DIAZ and GAKPO. He's probably not going to get like 2 or 3 goals in a match, because he obviously plays a lot further back. But when it comes to expected goals, he is actually the one with the most. Closely followed by GAKPO though. And of course DIAZ isn't that far behind either. So when if you were to take the minutes between them, GAKPO would probably be a little bit less and joint on par with Diaz and Szoboszlai, because obviously Gakpo has a lot more minutes to get a lot more expected goals. For the expected assists, however, Gakpo is the one with the most at 2.49. Again, though, Szoboszlai is sitting in second, so Szoboszlai has actually got better expected goals and better expected assists than Luis Diaz. So if you didn't maybe have a forward spot, which obviously Gakpo is going to occupy, you could potentially go for Szoboszlai, you know, as a bit of a punt. Maybe your rank's not doing too well, or you need to catch someone in the mini league and you need to go for someone a little bit different. Szoboszlai looks like he could be a decent punt instead of someone like Luis Diaz. When it comes to shots and shots on target, again, Gakpo is the one leading the way, only by 3 though. Again, if you were to, you know, balance the minutes out, it could be a little bit different, but Diaz and Szoboszlai are very, very similar. Again, with that, Diaz having 31 shots to Szoboszlai 28, and they both have 11 shots on target as well. And then Gakpo's, of course, the highest for big chances, joint with Diaz, and he's also the highest for big chances created, also joint with Szoboszlai. So for me, Gakpo definitely looks like the best pick. Definitely a good buy if you're looking for a Liverpool player. I actually think I do slightly prefer Szoboszlai to Luis Diaz if you wanted to play by the stats. Again, obviously Diaz is the one who's more likely to score 2-3 goals than Szoboszlai is, but you know, if you wanted to go off the stats, I think Szoboszlai is a good pick. But for me, I think this week Gakpo's definitely the best third option for Liverpool. Next up, we have the most transferred player in of the week, and that is Justin Kluivert. Obviously picked up a hat-trick in his most recent game, only 5.6 mil, so an absolute bargain as well, and he is on the penalties for Bournemouth, which he does seem to be scoring a lot of this season. However, I do think he is going to be in a void for me this week. There's a couple of difficult fixtures coming in for him. He's got Nottingham Forest at home and Liverpool at home as well. Two very, very difficult fixtures against very difficult defences. However, when it comes to game week 25, he's got that Southampton fixture, so he is definitely someone that you could consider around that point. But I think in terms of bringing him in now, I would give it a couple of more weeks. I think someone like a Morgan Rogers at a similar price, or even like a Dwight McNeil, who obviously hasn't been great, but he does have the double game week in game week 24. Could be a bit of a better option short term, and then Kluivert, someone to bring in maybe game week 25. Once again, comparing up Kluivert to the other Bournemouth midfielders, it is kind of, you know, similar with all of them. Again, you can see Bournemouth's fixtures at the top as well. I think when game week 25 comes around, that would be the time to bring in someone like Kluivert. However, again, looking at his minutes compared to, you know, the other midfielders, Semenyo, Dango. Now, Dango's actually been playing as a striker for Bournemouth, and he is listed as a midfielder. He had very, very good stats at the start of the season. His minutes haven't been great, but now with obviously Evanilson out until about April, I believe, Unal's out for the season, Bournemouth need a striker, and if you're going to have a midfielder in Bournemouth playing as a striker with, again, similar stats to your Kluiverts and Semenyos, I think Dango could be a really, really good option. Another one who is being overlooked in my opinion. Again, when you're looking at the expected goals, obviously this is over the last 5 matches, by the way, this isn't over the course of the season. Kluivert has 1.8 expected goals, and he is the one leading the way, but he has had a penalty in the last 5 matches. Now, I think a penalty is equivalent to about 0.76 expected goals, which if you were to take that penalty away, Kluivert would end up at the bottom of the 3 midfielders. So it's definitely something to keep in consideration. Obviously, penalties do play a big part. You can't just ignore them, because Kluivert is really good for that. However, again, I think someone like Dango, who would be top of the expected goals and is also top of the expected assists, potentially playing as an out-of-position striker, could be a much better option. Again, looking at the shots, Kluivert's lowest for shots out of the 3. Big chances created, he's created 0 over the last 5 matches, so it is just something to consider. We've still got 2 more matches out of them to kind of decide, but I really do like the look of Dango. Again, wouldn't be buying any of them right now due to the fixtures, but in game week 25, definitely would be looking at Bournemouth midfielder. Next up, we're looking at Nicholas Jackson. Now, I think unfortunately this week it is going to be a sell. I think if I did have him, I owned him in my own team, I would have kept him up until about this point because the fixtures have been pretty decent. But obviously after a blank against the likes of Wolves at home and Bournemouth, he is probably looking like a sell this week. He's got a tough fixture against Manchester City as well, and I think there's just a lot of better forward options at the minute. A lot of people have started to bring Calvert-Lewin in after, you know, getting a big haul against Spurs. He's got the double coming up. Raul Jimenez has been pretty decent recently. Obviously Chris Wood, a big popular one. Isak, a popular one. There is just a lot of strikers that are good right now. GAKPO, we've obviously just spoke about him as well. So I don't really think Jackson fits in there with his form at the minute. I don't think his fixtures are that bad against the likes of West Ham and Brighton, but I think now is a good time to get rid of him. He is, a big transfer out so far, down to 7.9 million, and I think the fact that he's playing Man City means it's a good time to get rid of him. Doesn't really matter what the stats are, I think, in my opinion. There is just a lot of better striker options, so I think moving someone like Jackson onto Cody Gakpo would be a really nice move this week. Now next up, we're bringing someone back who we obviously had in our last video, but that was now 2 weeks ago, so I thought I'd bring him back now, and that's Trent Alexander-Arnold. Definitely a buy this week if you don't have him. Again, I mentioned it at the start, he's probably the second best Liverpool player you can get for the upcoming double game week, after obviously Mo Salah. He is due to rise in price tonight as well, up to 7.3 million, and he is being transferred in a lot. Again, it was the most predictable thing to happen in the world. A couple of weeks ago he was being mass sold off, and as soon as these nice fixtures came around, and obviously the big haul helped in game week 21, he's definitely going to be someone who gets brought back. We don't even need to look at the stats with him, because we know that he is probably the best defender that you can own in the game. And obviously with a double game week and stuff and good fixtures around that, it's a very obvious buy. Trying to find the budget could be a problem for some people, but I definitely think it's going to be worth it, because even though I actually think, personally looking at it, the double game week could be the worst of the next 3 game weeks for him, because Ipswich at home and Wolves at home, he could do fantastically keeping clean sheets and stuff like that. And obviously has a massive attacking threat on top of that. The double game week is just a bonus at this point. High for expected points. I'm expecting some clean sheets as well from Trent, so definitely a buy this week. I think he's probably the most essential transfer I can think of this week. Now next up we have Phil Foden. Now he is another player who has been doing well in recent weeks after having a poor start to the season and really not getting too many game time at all. He's now been brought in 150,000 times in a period of horrendous fixtures. So I've decided to put for this graphic the next 5 fixtures for Manchester City, and I honestly don't think they could have got much worse. I think even though he has been decent in the last few weeks, if you're bringing him in now, you're definitely points chasing and have missed the boat on him. I really don't think I'd be looking to bring anyone in, no matter who it is. It could be prime Lionel Messi. With these fixtures, I don't think I'd be really keen on bringing him in. 9.3 million is expensive as well. But Chelsea at home, Arsenal away, Newcastle at home, Liverpool at home, you're talking some of the best defences in the league for a player who has only really came into form in the last few weeks. So yes, we've seen him score against these teams in the past, but he's not going to pick up big hauls against anyone. I suppose Spurs in a couple of weeks' time is definitely possible, but I don't think I'd want to buy him now and keep him for the next 4 game weeks in that case. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't be buying him. I think 150,000 transfers in is a little bit obscene. And yeah, I think he's an easy avoid this week. There's lots of good midfielders you can get at the minute. And I don't think Foden's one of them just yet. Maybe in a while when the fixtures get a little bit better. And then wrapping things up, we have a surprising one, but it's Cole Palmer. He's been sold off 155,000 times so far this week, and he's due to drop in price tonight as well due to that. Now, he's definitely a keep in my opinion. He's 11.4 million, and I can see why people have, started to take him out, because I think myself, I captained him waiting for something on Monday, and he never really showed too much. He's not been picking up big hauls over the last few weeks, but he is still doing well. He's picking up 8 pointers here and there, and he's still doing well. And I think you don't really need the money at the minute. Saka's not available when Haaland isn't really worth it, so I'm not really seeing why you would need to sell off Cole Palmer at the minute. And I'm hoping it's not people bringing Foden in, because it's similar for transfers out and transfers in. So I'm hoping that everybody that's brought Palmer out isn't bringing in Phil Foden. But again, mentioned it with Jackson, it's a difficult fixture still against Man City away, but there is obviously a big difference between a Cole Palmer and a Nicholas Jackson. I feel like Palmer's much more likely to do something in that game than Jackson is, and obviously upcoming fixtures aren't too bad either. Expected points are still huge, 8.3 expected points against West Ham, 7 against Brighton, and at the end of the day his form hasn't even been that bad. When we look at him compared to other midfielders, looking at the last 5 matches, he's still 7th for midfielders in expected goals at 1.57. When it comes to expected assists, he's still top, 1.92 in the last 5 matches. And big chances created, he is sitting in second, with only behind Mo Salah with 5 big chances created. So yeah, I mean, these stats really aren't that bad. I suppose the conversion isn't been as good as you would hope, but again, no real like alarm bells ringing that you've got to take out Cole Palmer right now. Again, no real reason to try free up budget at the minute either, because Foden's not a good option, Saka's out for a while, and as I said, Haaland probably isn't worth it, especially with the fixtures that Man City have got. Obviously, we just seen that with Phil Foden. But again, looking at Palmer's fixtures as well, they aren't fantastic, but they aren't horrendous either. He's got Man City, West Ham, he could really do something. Brighton, I think was it not Brighton that he scored 4 goals against at the start of the season as well. Villa isn't great, but you know, he's definitely capable of doing something. And then obviously Southampton at home is a captainable fixture for someone like Palmer. So for me, I think it's a little bit silly to be rushing into selling him. I don't really think the budget's needed for anything, so I would definitely be looking to keep him. Obviously a penalty taker as well, can get that in any game whatsoever. So definitely would be keeping Cole Palmer this week, wouldn't be rushing into any transfers. So that is what we've got for this week's transfer tips. We've got 2 buys, 1 sell, 1 keep and 2 avoids. Let me know down in the comments if you do agree with them, or if there's some that you think are totally wrong. Are you someone who has sold off Palmer for Phil Foden this week? Let me know again down in the comments. Make sure you leave a like on the video as well if you did enjoy it. Make sure to subscribe for more videos just like this one, and I'll see you all in the next one.